Dave's Breakfast Blast-Off by Sue Hendra and Lee Wildish. Dave was big and quite fantastic, and so were his breakfasts. After a long snooze and a big stretch, he trotted into the kitchen, but Dave was in for a shock. His bowl was empty, 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 empty. Dave waited and waited and waited and waited. But the bowl was still empty. Luckily, Bug had an idea. Let's go out for breakfast. Dave stuck his head out of the cat flap. His rumbling tummy got everyone's attention. Bug explained the plan. Hedgehog stood on Squirrel, Bird stood on Hedgehog, ouch. Mouse stood on Bird, and together they hoofed Dave over the fence to look for breakfast next door. Sure enough, there was a breakfast. It was a little breakfast, but it was still a breakfast. Surely Budgie wouldn't mind if Dave had a tiny taste. Crunchy, thought Dave. Rumble, rumble. He was still hungry. Surely Hamster wouldn't mind if Dave had a little nibble. Crispy, thought Dave. Rumble, rumble. He was still hungry, but Rabbit's carrots would never fill Dave up. He ate fish food, spider food, stick insect food, tortoise food, and smelly socks. Hang on a minute, that isn't even food. But Dave was still hungry. Suddenly, Dave's tummy made a different noise. Ping, boing, flollop, fudududud, and another flollololop. But just then, Dave saw something amazing. Now that's breakfast. Maybe he could have just a little bite. But Dog wasn't happy. Flollop. The other pets weren't happy. Dave's tummy wasn't happy either. He had eaten too many breakfasts. Dog came closer. Dave's tummy was out of control, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. Ping, boing, foo-doo-doo-doo-doo, flollop went Dave's tummy. Something big was about to happen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Oops! It had been a long, hard morning for Dave, but not to worry. It was almost lunchtime.
Henry's Big Win, written by Malik Ducard, illustrated by Rika Kinra. Henry's eyes lit up when he saw the fun wheel in the arcade. "Please, Dad, if I win, I will pay you back with more." "If you win, A hug is all I want, his dad said. His dad gave him a coin. Henry carefully pushed it into the slot. The fun wheel spun around and around, and then it clicked out more prize tickets than Henry had ever won. The other people in the arcade clapped. They shouted, "Wow, woot, and OMG!" The arcade owner ran out with a laugh. He wore a funny cooking pot hat, and he gave Henry the biggest bear in the arcade. But Henry pointed at the tickets that kept clicking out and said, "More." The owner nodded and gave him the fastest toy car. But Henry said, "More." And the biggest toy plane. But Henry said, "More." And the coolest toy boat. But Henry said, "More." Soon, Henry had all the prizes in the arcade. But the tickets kept clicking out, and Henry said, "More." There was nothing else left. The owner took off his cooking pot hat and put it on Henry and made him the new owner of the arcade. But Henry still wanted more. "I want arcades everywhere," he yelled. Henry opened more arcades. He turned 1 into 2, 2 into 10, 10 into hundreds. "I want arcades in outer space," Henry said. He opened so many that if you looked out of your window, one would look right back at you. People called Henry Kid Cool, and they started wearing cooking pot hats too. He had the fastest car, the biggest plane, and a boat with his name on the side. Henry had a butler. His butler had a butler. Even his butler's butler had a butler. They juggled hats and gave piggybacks. They thumped and jumped and bumped until one day Henry said, "No more." Because all Henry really wanted was to play with his dad. So he said goodbye to the butler's butler, and the butler's butler's butler. Then Henry walked back to the very first arcade, returned the funny cooking pot hat, and gave his dad a big smile, his last coin, and the biggest, giantest, juiciest hug in the world, because he knew his dad would want no more.
Hugless, Douglas and the Great Cake Bake by David Melling. Early one morning, Douglas was surprised to find a trail of footprints running across his bed. They were sticky and they tasted of honey. "Who's been walking on my bed?" asked Douglas. The honey-flavoured footprints led all the way to the food cupboard. "Where's my honey?" Douglas gasped. He looked at everything very carefully. "I can't eat any of this without honey on top, and I'm really hungry." Douglas quickly changed and followed the honey trail outside. If only I could find a clue to help me, he sighed. Then Douglas twitched his nose. I know that smell. Ah, hello, Douglas, baaed the sheep. Why are you wearing my honey? Asked Douglas. We're collecting everything we need to bake honey cakes, said Flossie. Can you help? Oh, yes, said Douglas. I love baking. The sheep passed down berries, nuts, carrots, and honey. Then Flossie made sure they all wore their proper outfits. And don't forget to wash your paws, she said. Let's bake. Berries, carrots, flour, eggs, honey, and mix. I finished. Can I eat some now? Asked Douglas. Not yet. It needs baking first, said Flossie. But why not try these berries? No thanks, said Douglas, clutching his hungry tummy. They haven't got honey on them. I'll wait. He watched the sheep put dollops of the mixture onto baking trays and into the oven. By now, everyone was very hungry. Douglas found a plate and joined the back of a bad-tempered queue. There was pushing and nudging. Then someone threw a carrot. Badoink! Food fight! Ping went the oven. The sheep froze. The cakes are ready, said Flossie. Yay! Cried the sheep, and they scrambled towards the delicious smell. Save some for me, called Douglas. But the sheep didn't hear, and soon every single cake had been eaten. What am I going to eat now? Said Douglas. He looked at the carrots on the floor and sighed. He bit into one. Oh, he said, a little surprised. That's nice. Douglas wasn't used to eating anything without honey on top. He took a mouthful of berries, even nicer, and nuts. Yummy, he cried. Carrots, berries, and nuts are almost as good as honey, said Douglas. But not quite. Nothing beats honey and hugs. How to decorate cupcake sheep. 1. Let your cakes cool. 2. Add the buttercream frosting. 3. Roll out the icing. 4. Cut out face shapes. 5. Add eyes, nose, and ears. 6. Put it all together. 7. Eat as quickly as possible.